Hello, everyone. Hope you're well. Hang on just one second while I get myself together here. Let's see. I'm going to go ahead and start. Actually, let me give you my greetings first. Hang on one second, then I'll start promoting everyone. Oops. Happy Monday. It is a happy Monday. It's a good Monday. Okay, let's get everybody up and running. Hey, Colin, good to see you, buddy. David Evers, good to see you. Jasmine, welcome aboard. Brand new. Gina, good to see you. Let's see, Liz. Good to see you, Liz. Nancy Lou, always good to see you too. Welcome aboard. Randy, good to see you, buddy. Hey, Randy, make sure you set up another call. Keep those going. Think of it as whenever you have one, you should set up the next one. Okay. There's lots of stuff to go over. Kai, good to see you. Susan, good to see you. And Susan, I'm going to also make you a co-host here in just a moment. Hang on one second. Teresa, good to see you. All right, Tom, good to see you, buddy. Okay, let me make sure I got everybody. Hey, fellas, come here. Sorry.
Apparently you have everybody, Gary.
What's that?
Apparently you have everybody.
Yeah.
So sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. That's the my brand new canine buddies. So, okay, so what we're going to do tonight, guys, is we're going to go over some objections and questions that people ask. I put objections and then questions people ask because I used to think of everything as an objection, like, oh, they don't like this for some reason. Turns out in most cases, people are actually looking for more information. And it took me a long time to come to grips with that. And when you realize that, it'll help you feel a whole lot better. Okay, I promise. I used to get like really kind of bent out of shape, like, I'm not doing a good job or they just don't get it. But like, let's do a show of hands or just unmute yourself. Who here has ever had a situation where you're working with a seller or a buyer or maybe another agent you're looking to bring onto the team and they have objections, you find yourself saying they just don't get it. They're just not seeing it. Anybody ever feel that way before?
Yep.
Besides me, like all the time. So we're going to talk about that. But what I'm going to do first is Susan Murray's on, and the week before last, she mentioned that she's having success with multiple offers. Like she's able to some, like figure out how to get the right price in at the right time and have a higher success rate. So Susan, would you mind if we talk a little bit about that first and maybe even come up with one or two examples or three to start, and that'll get the discussion going and it'll take care of itself and we can ask questions and so forth. That sound good?
Yep, that's great. Hi, everybody.
Hey.
So I've been thinking today about what I was going to talk to you about, and I'm sure you guys have all thought of this too, so this may or may not have any value to you, but I feel like God has just given me an anointing for negotiation, and it's kind of all common sense anyway. So I hope that this does something for you. But first of all, just on a regular offer, I don't like coming in on a low and then just, how realtors tend to like go halfway and then you go back up halfway. And, I just think that's stupid. So what I try to do is just structure my offers as strongly as I can. And I actually almost always, by doing this, I almost always just get the contract accepted without any negotiation. So what I try to do is make the offer as fair, but I try to get it to an ouch point where I get the best, I shave off as much as I can, or I add in closing costs or whatever to where it's an ouch. So the seller says, ouch, but not enough to counter it. So there's so many different ways to do that, obviously. but that's what I've always had. That's how I try to structure my offers, just to make them really strong and airtight. So, you know, easily an easy example would be that you give somebody full price, but then you back that off by asking for full closing costs, like even sometimes 5%. You know, a lot of times when we're working with our first time buyers, that kind of thing. So I do that a lot, and that works well when you're not in competition. And maybe it's been sitting on the market a little bit longer. I mean, I almost always do something like that anyway. Another thing that I do on my regular offers when there's not huge competition is if I know that I want to ask for something that I'm not allowed to ask for in the home inspection, it's not a major structural defect, for instance, I'll go ahead and write it right into the offer. So it's already part of the offer and it's already negotiated, that thing that I want. For instance, I had a buyer recently and he could qualify for more than the house was worth. I felt like the house was really undervalued and I knew it could appraise for more. And so because obviously you're going to spend a lot less money on something if you build that right into your financing in terms of just bumping up the purchase price. So we really wanted to get windows and a heat pump, and he did not have the cash to do that after closing. So I was pretty certain that it was going to appraise. So I just built that right in. I gave the seller full price, and then I built on top of that the money for the windows and the heat pump. And so they didn't love the idea, but they ended up doing it for me anyways. So that was one way that I just was able to get that done for my buyer, so that he had, like, the rest of the house was in really good condition. And now he also had the two things that he really, really wanted that otherwise he would have had to save up for years to be able to get if he even could. Does that make sense? So that's just normal offers. All right. And so with multiple offers, obviously, you kind of just have to psych out what somebody else is going to offer. And so I start off with asking my buyers, how much do you want this house? And then if they say, oh, Susan, you have to get me this house. Then I'm like, okay, I'm going to go, I'm going to do what I need to do to get this done for you. So you're going to have to just go with it, with what I tell you to do. So for instance, one of them that I did recently was listed for, I think it was 134.9, which was a decent price for it. And I just went with a purchase price of 145 because, again, I knew it was going to appraise, and I figured people probably wouldn't go that high above ask. Some of the other people that we were competing against, this buyer had really good credit score. She had some extra money that she could throw at it. I figured it was the kind of house that a lot of people were going to be coming in with, just first time buyers, and they were going to need closing costs, and they probably couldn't go quite as high. And so I did that. Plus I did an escalation clause on top of that to get it up to 155. However, that's a risk, you guys. I don't know what your associations do, but you have to be really careful when you're using an escalation clause, because if there's more than one escalation clause, then your buyer has to be prepared to go all the way up to the price. It's not like you're going to get away with giving $500 over the next highest bid. So it's a risk, it's a chance. But the seller turned out to actually be the listing agent as well. And so he called me and he said, do you really think the house is going to appraise for 155? And I just laughed and I said, no, I don't. But luckily there was not another escalation clause. So I think he was really happy that I was honest with him, and we ended up winning that, which was awesome for her because she loved it. But in that case, we didn't have to ask for closing costs. So, just have to kind of know what you think the other realtors are going to be able to come in with, and then just go as strong as you can, and just let your buyer know, we may end up paying more than you want to pay, and then we can hope that it's not going to appraise and that the seller will come down. So you just have to be super aggressive. And another one I just won on multiple bid. These are some youngsters that I had been working with, and we just lost bid after bid because they couldn't go high enough. And we found this house that they loved, and again, I knew it was going to appraise, and it was a little bit high for them. And there were, I think, 9 other offers on that particular one. And it did have some peeling paint, and my buyers were FHA. So I thought, okay, how high can I get away with? They also had a little bit of extra savings. And I knew that my main problem with that one was going to be that we had to go FHA. We didn't have any choice. And I knew that there was peeling paint, and we were going to get that called out on appraisal. So because of that, we did use an escalation clause on that one as well, because we had to. But what I did to diffuse that FHA objection, because sellers hate that, because they know that they don't want to take an FHA loan, because they know they're going to have to do stuff to qualify for the loan. So what I did was I wrote a separate addendum to the contract, which did not go to the lender. So you guys know, like on FHA loans, you never write in on personal property. You don't put the dishwasher and the refrigerator and stuff, because with government loans, they have to monetize that, and it can screw up their qualifying if they're, first time buyers or something and they're really tight. So just like we don't turn that into the lender, I didn't turn in this extra addendum, because what it said was that the buyers would pay for the FHA compliance items up to $1,000. And because I did that, we did win that contract. And I later found out we won it by like $125.
Wow.
Yeah. So you just have to like really, think through, what are my objections going to be from the seller, think like a listing agent, and then think about, who are we up against really? What kind of a buyer is it? What do we have that nobody else is necessarily going to have in their arsenal? And then utilize everything you got. So I have won 5 out of my last 6.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, not rocket science, but I hope that helps you guys some.
No, that helps. And I want to open up the questions with, one of them is the first part you talked about the things you're asking for. Have you ever thrown in a lot of other things, like stuff we would normally call chattel, like something in the shed, like lawnmowers, weed whackers, things like that, or like in the garage, you might have a whole shelf of all the paints they use in the house over the years. Have you ever thrown in things like that are easy giveaways, but monetarily that might not amount to much, but psychologically it's an advantage, because the way you phrase it's like, we're giving up the paint we asked for, we're giving up the lawnmower we asked for, like you're giving up all these giveaway things to try to focus and get the deal done. But what really matters is the price.
Yeah, I actually really try not to get involved in that kind of stuff. If somebody says they want the couch or whatever, I say, okay, we'll work on that later. Because what happens, I feel like, is that, just like you're saying, the focus goes completely away from the real estate, and then we're losing a deal over a lawnmower. It's stupid. So I try not to do that. Now, if they counter back, then I'll say, okay, if you throw in the lawnmower, we'll take that price. Because then you've gotten something for the extra money. So psychologically, you still got a good deal because you got the lawnmower. But the other way around, man, I feel like it just muddies the waters, and I don't want to get involved in that whatsoever.
Well, I like your perspective. I appreciate that, because the old days, like in a normal market, when it came to investing, we would throw everything, including the kitchen sink, But what you're just saying there actually makes sense, especially in today's market. And would you guys agree? Doesn't that make sense in today's market? I mean, it's like, why muddy the waters, all this stuff, when everybody's waiving contingencies, like appraisals and inspections and stuff like that.
Yeah, in this market, I wouldn't touch that. I used to do those things too. Like I call them throwaways, right? Those things that we're willing to give up to make a deal, but we're going to ask for a little bit more. But in our market here, we're seeing full appraisal waivers. We're seeing in order to win, it's like everything is seller focused. Seller pays title. Seller does this. Seller does that. I mean, buyer does all of the things that seller typically do in our area, because it's so competitive. So if that came over on a multiple offer situation right now, we laugh at.
Yeah, it's not easy to do on multiple offers, but I still don't even do it anyways, just on regular offers. I just don't think it's a great idea, because people, they get kind of crazy when they're trying to get real estate, and if it comes down to the fact that they're not leaving the dishwasher, oh my gosh, no, it's not worth it, because we're trying to sell real estate. We're not trying to sell a bike or a couch or a dishwasher or a refrigerator. I don't like to do that.
You know, it's
But you can always
amazing.
ask for it later.
Yeah, I like that approach. When I was in Virginia Beach, we call it Tidewater. It's the 7 cities around the opening of the Chesapeake Bay. It's just like in Florida, everybody has a pool. In Tidewater, everybody has a boat. So Gina, did you ever remember seeing us? Like we would use the boat, we would throw in the boat. It was like, okay, you know what? We're getting closer. Throw in the boat, you got yourself a deal. That was almost like every other deal.
That's awesome.
Yeah, but
Yeah, it's good to bring it in at the end to clinch it. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
definitely, that can work sometimes.
yeah. We had another situation where the guy got a classic car out of it. In fact, it was in Florida. It was Frank McKinney, and it wasn't like a rundown classic car. It was a nice classic car, and the Frank was selling this house. It was like a $10 million house, and he rolled up or whatever it was, he Studebaker or something like that, and the buyer, they were ready to give up, and he said, "I'll tell you what, I've always wanted a Studebaker. You throw in that Studebaker, Frank, you got a deal." And it worked. All it was maybe another $10,000 on a $10 million deal, but that's what got the deal through. So again, I think it's psychology. People just
Yeah.
want to win. They want to feel like they're winning,
Yes.
Hey, so guys, any questions on that part of it? I have more questions. I just want to see if you guys have questions on that part of it, like not just throwaways, but things that Susan brought up early on,
Yeah, I just tried to keep it clean as possible. I just won one finally on Friday. We had 9 offers, and they were asking $396. It had fallen out of escrow on a VA appraisal that came in low, which was stupid because the property should probably appraise for in excess of 410 to 415. But in my market, VA is a huge part of the pool, huge part of the pool. So that was kind of cool. It eliminated competition, right? But there were still 9 offers in there. And I think that the key thing is really calling that listing agent and really working them to find out, like, what does the seller want? And in this case, the guy's 90 years old. He wants his money before he passes away. So like every day counts. I get, when you're 90, every day counts. So he wanted a quick close. And so we got him a 30-day close, and then we offered to pay $2,500 of the seller costs, and we offered $400. So $400, it was $396 what they're asking. We offered $400 plus $2,500 of the seller closing costs. And I did use an escalation clause, going to $410 with proof of the next best offer. Actually, I went to $411 because I wanted to make sure if there was an offer at $410 that we had that extra $1,000 in there.
Yep.
But we didn't need it, which was kind of cool because I think they didn't really want to push the price up that much because of the issue they've had with the appraisal before. But I was glad to get that one in escrow because I've been working with this couple for 45, 50 days, looking hard at properties. It's nuts out there.
Yeah.
I think you're right, David, in talking to the seller, because I know like a lot of, especially when inventory is so tight, a lot of times what will clinch the deal is just doing a seller rent back. So I know when I sold my property in San Francisco, we did, they gave me a seller rent back. So I didn't have to pay, I had an extra month, didn't have to pay anything just to stay there and then get, everything done on my house. Cause people there will typically sell theirs before they're going to go make that purchase just cause it's so tight.
Yeah, this one was vacant. The other thing we did was we did as is. So, cause we knew he didn't want to do anything to it. Even though they had not listed it as an as is, there were, it's a house that's 20 years old. Doesn't really have deferred maintenance. It's just a 20-year-old house. It needs some things. And we just wanted to let him know going in, like, we're good with it just the way it is, unless during inspection we find something major.
Right.
Which we didn't, so.
To David's point also, you guys remember if you're ever in an auction situation, like foreclosures or whatever, don't go with an even number. Like if you're going to do So 235,000, 237,000, 235,700 or something, because it's
Yeah.
basically the computer that's picking that number. It's whatever is the highest number. Terms don't count at all. It's just about the money. So always remember to stick on some odd extra amount on top of it.
Yeah. So Susan, we used to do that and we'd actually make it $237,119.47.
Right. Yeah.
And you'd be surprised at how many times, like, other people thinking, I won't just go to 230, I go to 231. And then everybody's going to 231. So we would go 231 and some change.
Yeah.
I actually got confirmation one time. It wasn't even an online thing. It was just people outbidding each other. I went to the house afterwards with the contractor. Well, the neighbors walked up and he said, "Are you Gary Wilson?" I was nervous. At first I was going to say no. And I said, "Yeah, how can I help you?" He said, "You beat me by $100." That's what he told me. He said, "I was going to buy the house. You beat me by $100." Well, I'll tell you what, we can come back to this too, but I want to touch on the escalation clauses because I've seen all kinds of different ways people are trying to do it, but I never thought about it being also subject to your boards. Maybe your board has certain restrictions in your area or the state. So Susan, let's start with you. So when you do an escalation clause, how are you actually wording it? Like what are the terms of the escalation clause?
Well, it is just a form. So a lot of times what I'll do if I know that we're going to put an offer in, and I know there are going to be multiple offers, I ask the listing agent at the end, how many offers do you have in? And I don't often ask the listing agent, what does the seller want? But you just have to be careful. So like if you don't end up having a lot of offers, and you can even say, do you have any escalation clauses in yet? Because you really do have to be careful about how high you're going to go if you do throw in, so like in my area, 2 escalation clauses, more than 1 escalation clause, you don't get to just go up by the increment. Like if it's 145,000 and you think you're just going to squeak up by 500 over the next higher offer, if there's 1 or more escalation clauses, you have to go all the way up to 150 or whatever your final number is. And so you don't want to do that. Or if you think there's going to be another one, you have to be really careful about how high you're going to go. And then you can choose the increment amount that you go up. And I just don't feel like, I feel like you need to do a fairly high increment amount because, and again, you can make that anything. So like, again, if you want to do 500 and instead you do 525, just like the auction things we were just talking about, this is still going to squeak it out. And seriously, I have one by $500. I have one by $125. So it's very tight sometimes, and the margin that you win by.
Well, here's what I'm asking. So I don't, so when I was in production, what we would do is we could do an escalation clause and we could be creative, but there had to be limits. You couldn't just leave it open-ended like
right.
$500 a shot until you win. They wouldn't let you do that.
Right.
But either had to have it, you could say $500 up to 3 times, and that would be considered a limit. They would allow that. We could also do what we used to do. Sometimes we'd say the first one is 10,000, depending on the market and the price of the house. With 10,000, second one's 5,000, third one's 1,000, and they would allow that. So you could like escalate, but each time you went up 3 times, it would. So it didn't have to be the same amount. It could be a different amount.
That's a great idea. And since our form doesn't allow that, I could potentially just write that on an addendum and send that in, just not on write my own escalation clause. That's a good idea.
Yeah. Hey, Melanie, and you're in where you are. How's the board? They let you do stuff like that on escalations, or is it more strict? Like you have to have the total dollar amount at the end needs to be 350. Is that some boards apparently are like that? So you gotta go to a dollar amount, and that's your limit. You can't do number of like could be 3. It seems to me like there's flexibility. I don't know, but what are you seeing there?
I really don't know at this point, because we had a conversation with our office before this crazy market, and the thought was that escalation clauses weren't approved, weren't acceptable, and so I haven't done an escalation clause in years from being here. we just got notification last week on we're going to be having discussions about escalation clauses because people are using them, and without an attorney writing it for us, so that we're having some direction and conversations around that. So in our market right now, this crazy market, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. So
yeah.
the whole
Um,
story there.
That's okay. I mean, I agree. I think a lot of agents are probably, maybe their buyers are telling them, hey, put this in there. The agent's like, well, it's the buyers, their money.
Yeah,
But
right, yeah. So
but in most cases, it was always, you had to have some kind of a limit. You couldn't, that was the main thing. It couldn't just be some open and the thing. But and the reason I think this was important is I've actually had people tell me that their escalation clauses they were told they were just being ignored. They were just like, we got 100 offers. We forget your escalation clause, And one reason is, and this, I'm just going to throw this out there. When I was doing all those REOs for the banks, and we get multiple offers, every deal was a multiple offer. We were required to submit the highest and best disclosure to all the offerers, all the buyer's agents, and tell them, you got to give us your highest and best in 24 hours. And then we go from 100 to 30. And then we could do it that multiple times. This was the seller going back to the buyers. Okay, now there's another round. We're down to 30. Give us your highest and best now. We'd narrow it down like an auction type of thing till we got down to the final 1 or 2 or 3. But most agents, I'm noticing, don't ever do that. You're lucky if they even do one highest and best disclosure. Well, my buyer took the highest offer, which is to me a disservice, because if you got 100 offers, you should be doing the highest and best scenario, right?
Absolutely. And that's what we're seeing in our market. We are seeing a lot of highest and best. And actually it's odd when we don't see a highest and best. So it's like, what is the deadline? How much time do we have? So buyers agents are nervous if you don't see a highest and best on there. So we are seeing that. So that is a factor that we're, with the escalation clauses like that, it's highest and best by blank.
Yeah. Will they go a couple rounds though, Melanie? Will they go like 2 and 3 rounds sometimes, or?
We haven't seen it like that. I've done it, and I had a couple of people in my program do it that way. But normally it's okay, the deadline, and then they just pick from what they have.
Yeah.
At least
We're seeing it on the actual listing just going in. Right. So I've got a property that I know I'll get multiples on that's going on the market a week from Thursday. I'm going to put it on Thursday morning, Thursday and Friday for agents to show it. Saturday open house, all offers to be presented by 5 p.m. Sunday with the highest and best with a response by 5 p.m. Monday. And it's just laid right out there, and then everybody knows kind of what they're. I think it's like, as a listing agent is doing our job properly, it's just like putting all the extra documentation in the listing instead of waiting for people to ask for it. Just put it there so that everybody can make an educated decision. I hate having to ask an agent for stuff when they should be putting it in the listing in the first place.
Well, I would encourage you guys, next time you have a listing and you get a bunch of offers, and you do the highest and best right off the bat. But if you get another round of a lot of offers and there's still like 20 offers in a second round, do another round of highest and best. Say, well, we're at it again. We still got a lot of offers. We got to narrow this down. And I'm telling you, this is the kind of market to do it.
Yeah.
So unless your board has some law rules that you can't do that, I don't see a reason why you can't.
I think terms are important too. Like on my last listing, I had multiple offers, and we actually had, with the offer we accepted, they put down a $10,000 earnest money deposit, which in my market is unheard of. Unheard of. People put down 250, and I'm like, what's wrong with your buyer? I don't want to take this offer. Give me some more EMD. But so, I mean, that, and like Gina was saying about rent backs, and just all of those extra things are super important too.
Yeah.
Not just price.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
it's not just cash even.
Yeah. Since you brought it up, I'm telling you, I did a deal one time for myself, where the earnest money deposit was the entire price of the house. I did. So here you go. Take it or leave it. And they took it. I got it for half price. I gave offered them cash, and the earnest money deposit was the entire thing. But I mean, I wouldn't recommend that to most consumers. But
What price point?
look, they're waiving all the contingencies. What's the difference? I mean, you're guaranteeing they're going to buy the house. But a couple of things. So Susan mentioned doing when you're doing high estimation, and you're on the buyer side, add that extra dollar amount, the odd change, a few dollars and some change. But also the earnest money deposit, that was, I gave that example because it was extreme, but there are a lot of cases where we would really go big on the earnest money. We knew we were going to get the house, or our client. We would say, look, put down 25% for the earnest money deposit. That'll really get their attention,
Yeah.
And it seems like a risk, but if you think about it, if they're waiving inspection, they're waiving appraisal contingency, they're guaranteeing pretty much they're going to buy it no matter what. What's the difference whether you put it up front or put it paid in the back end? It may be the thing that gets you over the hurdle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
In our market, we have option periods, and we pay for the option to actually have an unrestricted right to cancel the contract. So we
Yeah.
pay up to $10,000 option fee too, and that's the one thing that the seller gets to keep if they cancel the contract. So earnest is a good thing to increase, but even option money and putting 10,000 in option money is even better, because then that's showing we're really committed, at least in our market, for
yeah.
commitment.
Hey, by the way, I want to welcome aboard Jasmine Whitson. Jasmine, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Gary. Thank you.
Yeah, everybody say hi to Jasmine. She's brand new. Just joined the team.
Hi, Jasmine.
Hello. I'm
Yeah.
super excited, and I was happy to get in for the meeting today and just get everything started. So I'm still getting acclimated, but I'm super excited and ready to go.
Well, we will give you a test till tomorrow, okay?
Thank you. Maybe even Friday. That'd be better.
There you go. Well, since I have you, Jasmine, so in Nashville, obviously, you're one of the fastest growing markets probably in the world, let alone just the United States. But are you seeing these kind of things there too, or any tricks up your sleeve you see people try?
Yeah, this market here is just absolutely crazy. So I've had a couple of buyers that I put offers in for. We offered over asking. We were paying our own clothes, and they still didn't get accepted. We're seeing offers go for 20, 30, 40,000 over asking here. So but you'll find a few every now and again that they'll help you with the closing costs. I did have one client, they did offer to pay $5,000 of the closing, but when we went to do our inspection, it was a foundation issue. So I think that's why they offered it, because they already knew it was an issue. So, but yeah, it's been about the same way here. Really, really, really competitive market. So I'm so happy to hear these little tips and tricks, and I'm going to try to implement. Some of them I do implement, but I'll try to do some things a little bit different. So this is great.
Well, yeah, thank you for sharing too, by the way. Also, guys, remember what Jasmine was talking about, closing costs. In most normal markets and a lot of parts of the country, it's customary to ask the seller to pay some of the buyer's closing costs. Well, there's no reason you can't have the buyer pay the seller's closing costs. In fact, that's one of our techniques when you're down to the wire. And we mentioned this the other week, and you're close. It's like David was saying, find out what the seller really wants. Sometimes the seller is just like, you know what, I just want to know I'm going to get $100,000 cash. That's all. I just want to walk with $100,000 cash. And they always are concerned because they know the closing costs are going to come in. They're going to have to pay prorations on utilities and taxes and all kinds of stuff, and insurance, and there's transfer taxes. Well, you can, if you're really savvy, you call those sellers in and say, look, what is it your seller wants to walk away with? Just write that down. What does your seller want to walk away with? Okay. And then do the math and see if your buyer will go for this. Say, look, my buyer will give your seller that. And in order to make that happen, we will pay the closing costs for both sides, including commissions. Okay. And as long as within the reason what the buyers want to do, the seller's like, okay, wait a second, this guy's willing to pay all the expenses. I'm guaranteed I'm going to walk away with $100,000. You know, that's the kind of stuff sometimes that'll get you the win, you know? So, has anybody seen that before?
No,
Good idea.
Yeah.
that's a good one. That's a great idea.
Yeah,
It's-
not paying the commissions, and I get, you know, I guess you just have to have the right buyer, obviously, in order to be able to do that. They gotta have the capital.
you got to show them the math. You know, you got to show them the math. And here's, look, you know, this thing's going to sell no matter what. Somebody's going to buy this house. There's 10 offers. Here's something we can do that might not really cost you a whole lot more, because you would remember you're looking for a net. The seller's looking for a net. They want to guarantee they're what they're going to get. As long as within the range your buyer was going to pay anyways. In other words, you would have had a higher price, but everybody those are in closing costs. All we're saying is, you know, shift all the costs to one side and net the net on the receiving side. As long as it works, it works. But remember, the buyer now gets to take in that tax year the write-off for a majority of that, whereas the seller, it would have gone against cost basis. You follow what I'm saying? So at tax time, the buyer is getting back whatever their tax bracket is, potentially 25% of all those expenses. So it's like a delayed, you know, it's not like a complete, it's not like giving up the ship, so to speak. They'll get some of it back at tax time. Okay, Christina Coleman, how are you? Christina, are you there? So
Yeah, I am here. It takes a moment to get the mute off.
That's okay. Good to see you today.
Oh my gosh, what a great day. Absolute
Yeah.
blessing.
So I got to see Christina earlier, and I got to see Carell tonight, and both in Atlanta. And guess where I am right now?
Where?
At Carell's house. I had dinner.
Oh, good.
So, in any case,
Hopefully you'll get some rest.
Oh, here, I'll turn off the background. Hang on one second. So this is one of the benefits of traveling.
Hi.
Oh, what did I just do? Hang on a second. Can you guys see me?
Nope.
See you before.
There we go. Okay. So I've been wanting to get to see everybody, and Lou Brown, I don't know if you guys remember back in January, I had a guest on, Noah Brandy, and he brought on Lou Brown as a surprise guest for me. And so Lou and I stayed in touch, and Christina orchestrated for us to meet today at his office in Atlanta. So we're trying to work out some interesting arrangements to help him help us and us help him, you know. So more to come on that. And he brings an awful lot to the table. But so Christina, in Atlanta, I mean, I know you've done some deals here in the last couple of months. Were any of those investor deals mostly owner occupant, or what was the?
I've done both as well as commercial.
Okay. Well, usually on the commercial end, are you seeing any other tricks up your sleeve, like we've been talking about tonight, that are working for the commercial guys?
Well, I will tell you that it's just as bonkers as in commercial as it is in residential.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not, it's absolutely a seller's market. So we're negotiating one deal right now that's a flex space. It's got warehouse as well as office, and the seller is not willing to pay broker's fees. They want top of market, and it's as is.
Mm-hmm.
And they're not willing to budge. So it's not on, it wasn't put on the market, so it's an off market negotiation. So if it were on the market, my client's willing to pay that elevated price, because we know that if it were on the market, then it could escalate even higher. So you know, it just is what it is.
Yeah. Well, I do have one for you guys. If this ever pops up, and it doesn't have to just be commercial, but let's say you've got a multi-unit building, a multi-family property, 4 units, 6 units, something small like that. And right now they're hard to come by, because the people who own the multifamily just aren't selling. They understand we're going to head into a correction. And if you got nice multifamilies, you're going to do well in a recession, because there's fewer buyers, then therefore more renters. But one thing you can do is called a rent participation mortgage. So what you commit to is get the seller to agree to a certain price and tell them to sweeten the pot, they can participate in future rent increases. So let's say you raise rents by $100, the buyer the person who bought it keeps 50 of the increase and they give the other 50 back to the original seller, right? Not forever, but for a period of years. Sometimes something like that is enough to get the seller to say, okay, because if you think about it, it allows them to defer some of their gains, right, over a period of years, and they get some residual income coming in to boot, and it may be just what they need to say yes, called a rent participation mortgage. And it's something, you would do it when the property you're buying has room for rent increases, obviously. You don't want to do it, if you're locked in, and you have to have, there's guarantees in there, like you're gonna commit to raising rents by a certain percentage, things like that. So, but it's an interesting solution that commercial guys will do. Like we can do it on the residential side too, And Carol, would you mind telling about the listing you had here where was a neighbor came over with another realtor? I wanted to make them tell you to not list it, but.
No, I was coordinating the cleanse because the lady moved like a year ago. Mm-hmm. So the house, first somebody came and picked up some stuff, and then we wait another half a year so the daughter will come. So the house was full of boxes and many stuff that she didn't want to take. Mm-hmm. So I was coordinating that, and the house was full of trash. Like the garage was like covered in trash, right? And then he came and like, I want to see the house, and I'm like, I'm not ready, And he's like, no, I'm a man and I want to see the house, and I'm like, well, go ahead, but I'm not ready, And later that day, they just put an offer for $15,000 over asking, no closing cost, waiving the appraisal, and we are on the contract closing in 3 weeks, because I told him what she wants is to close like this, just because she's in California and stuff. And she took it, and I obviously that night went to bed at 2 a.m. putting everything on the system, like fulfilling the contract. My sign was put up there like 2 days ago, like we're closing next week, and I just put the sign like yesterday. But he wanted, and he's like, I need it, I want it, I don't care, take my money. And so, but what I'm seeing also here, I don't know if anybody else is in North Atlanta, what I'm seeing is like a lot of agents are not taking escalation clauses anymore. They are asking for highest and best. Or if they take the escalation clause, they want you to prove that you have that amount of cash and that you're going to waive the appraisal, because I don't know really how it works, but it seems like even if you offer 40,000 more, there's still an exit, during that process of not being, approved for the credit. And if you offer 40 that you don't have, and then the property doesn't appraise 10 under, let's say, pues then you have, what I'm saying, like that 40 just turned into 50. And so for whatever the reason that I cannot explain, I've seen many times that they say, do not do escalation clause, do best, highest and best by that date. Mm-hmm. So I don't know.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Good stuff. Okay, I've got one thing I want to bring up. We're down to about 15 minutes. It's a sort of a market. It came off of one of our marketing campaigns, but it's a way to get some listings now. But any other questions from what we've covered so far? Any more questions or comments?
I have one more. Yeah. I've also thought about this, Gary. I don't know if you or any of you guys have done this before, but when you have a buyer who's trying to do a flip, has anybody ever offered the seller to participate in the, like the profit at the other end if they'll do owner financing?
Yeah. Yeah, we call it a seller's flip. We did this out in Santa Barbara.
Okay.
And what we would do actually is, this is a great technique if you have a senior crowd, like a population's more senior. We know they're getting hit by the flippers left and right. We buy houses, all this kind of stuff. And what we do is approach the seller and say, look, somebody's going to buy your house, beautiful home, but they're going to update the kitchen. We wouldn't say you have an old kitchen. We would say they're going to update the kitchen, update the windows, this and that, and they're going to raise the price by $200,000. Wouldn't it be nice if you could share in that profit? Okay. And then what would happen, Sue, is generally we'd end up talking to their children. The kid, like the parents are 80s and the children in their 50s. And then you have to convince them that this is real. It's not, we're not, scammers or anything. But we would align ourselves with a good contractor with a good reputation, with a nice portfolio, with nice remodeling. And the contractor, here's where it really gets good. The contractor takes responsibility for the material and the labor all up front. The owner doesn't have to pay a dime for anything.
Right.
At the end, those two parties split the increase in the profit. The seller gets 50% over cost and the contractor gets 50% over cost. And then what you do is you draw up a lien ahead of time. So if the seller backs out or decides they don't want to sell it anymore, because it happens, sometimes the seller would say, we really like this house now, we're going to stay, so the contractors to be paid, and if they get paid, that they could put a lien on. And technically, yes, they can put a mechanics lien, but that's a lot of work. So we would have one already written, and it's like a pre-confession of judgment, if you want to think of it that way. So that's what we did there. But here's what I was getting at. I don't know, because I haven't stopped today to watch any of the news or listen or anything like that at all. Where word on the street is that I think through executive order, Biden went ahead and killed 1031 exchange date. Anybody hear that? Yeah, for certain, like over 500,000, something like that. And I don't think it's, they probably have to honor anything that's currently in an exchange period. They can't just change the rules, people feel like that. But also, I'm sure you've heard that they want to raise capital gains to 39%. Okay. So
Only for people who make more than $1 million a year, though, not for everybody.
Yeah, but still, that's not much today. $1 million a year. I mean, heck, you flip a couple houses, you can easily hit $1 million. But in any case, remember how I started talking about 2 months ago that we noticed, and Teresa, where's Teresa Green still on? Let's see if she's still on. Yeah. So Teresa noticed the same thing. We noticed it in New Jersey. We noticed it in Florida, that of the properties going up for sale, a larger percentage of them are owned by investors. Have you guys noticed that? Not the multifamily, but singles, condos, townhomes, and single family detached. So Teresa did some checking, and some other folks did too. And we decided, let's go after the landlord owned properties. Okay. And the reason they want to sell is, like us, they feel like we're getting close to the end of the top of this market, and they want to take their profit now, as opposed to waiting and taking a chance. And they're also hearing all the news about capital gains and 1031 exchange, which is more incentive for them to sell now when it's safe. So my suggestion to you is, or my assignment to you is, if you're on the team, use our lead gen system to find the absentee owners. 10 years ownership, that's we call board investor. 10 years ownership. We can tell by the deed recordings and the absentee owner, and our lead gen system gives it to us automatically. Well, contact them, right? Send them a letter, follow up with a phone call. All right, quick caveat here. I've always been a fan for a long time of sending something first to people before you call them. But for the time being, I'm going to tell you, if you guys want to call first, I would endorse that. Okay. It's just based on the way the market is. If you feel like you want to call people first, cold call, have at it. Okay. That direct approach, and actually Teresa mentioned this the other week with one of her mailings. She was more direct in her mailing. And I was talking to somebody else, and it was actually today, and they were saying, no, I feel like I need to just call them. And I said, I think you're right. Let's go for it. So use the skip tracing function and call these people. Okay. Dialing for dollars. It's not robo dialing. You actually got you know who they are. You have the information on their house. And now you got a three-prong approach to convincing them to sell. And say, have you considered selling if the price was right? We feel like we're at or near the top of this market. Why not take your profit now instead of waiting and taking a chance on price drops? Number two, come back is if they have an objection, they'll say, well, you know what? I don't know if you heard, but 1031 exchange may be limited or going away. And third line defense is, boy, hope we don't get that 39% capital gains tax. They might not say yes at the moment, but they might call you back the next day and say, let's see what we can put it out there for $1 million to see what happens. I mean, we've had at least 2 properties in the last month where we decided just to go for it. And Amy McConnell had one in Ohio. All their numbers came in at 160 something like that. And I was not going to budge. And finally I said, you know what, go ahead and put it out there for 200, 198. Sure enough, she got a cash offer coming in at 180, you know? And then who was the other one? In any case, basically I said, you know what, just go for it. Well, you guys remember, you remember the one in Cincinnati, that 28 unit about 2 months ago? And I told her, I said, the numbers clearly say 1.3, 1.4. Well, I told her on a one call, I said, go ahead and put it out there at 1.8. And sure enough, 2 offers came in. One from Michigan, one from California. I'm telling you, given these examples and get yourself some listings, because right now you've got a lot of ammo, a lot of potential objection handlers in your pocket that you can use, you know? So.
I got my first walkabout listing.
Hot dog, all right.
$500,000 property.
Well, I think, I know Teresa was doing those. I knew Heather was doing them. Who else has done a walkabout? Who knows what we're talking about when we say walkabout? Oh, Shirley's done it, that's right. Susan, okay. I would keep at it, guys. I'm telling you, I know sometimes it's hard to be persistent and consistent, but
What is it?
it's basically you're farming, but you're not really you're not door knocking. You're giving them something of value, like a flyer with statistics or a booklet. Yeah.
And I got to walk. So 150 houses with 7.2 miles.
Yeah.
Because we have half acre lots. So it's like I'm getting my cardio in with my marketing.
Yeah. There you go. Multitasking.
I have an idea for whomever is having trouble with the buyers. I just have a buyer. So here in my market, the media is 350. So everything under 350 is, you know, everything is hot. Under 350 is forget it. And my buyer have an FHA for 250 and he needs help with the closing costs. So, you know, we were never going to get a house because, you know, every offer that we put has another 20 offers. So what I finally found by, by mistake or by luck, is that I found a builder, which actually is in EXP also. And he's building that kind, you know, like between 230 and 320. So we just went, after trying a couple of offers that didn't went through, we just went under contract with him with a house that is not even in the market because it's going to be finished in 70 days. So he was going to list it like in a month and a half, and we already have it. And he helped us with closing costs, you know, like everything, you know, we're going to choose painting and, you know, it's not the perfect house, but it solved my problem because there is no way that we were ever going to win any of those fights, you know. So I was thinking maybe just find a flipper or a builder and just grab them before they put it on the market so that you don't have to be, you know, punching for it. Like he didn't ask over asking, you know, we are going to wait for the appraisal. He offered 5,000 in closing cost. He's going to, you know, change a couple of things, make an extra thing in the house. You know what I'm saying? Like, so hopefully, you know, it will go through, but it was a whole different situation because I found him like long before he was ready to list the house. So.
Did the seller use an escalation clause for the cost of building materials in the next 70 days?
No, I mean, he just, you know, he has like many houses. He doesn't have like a community. He has one house here, one there. He has like 8 houses going on, you know, different times. And I actually put another one under contract, but then the buyer didn't want it because it's on the lake and it's not paved or whatever. And I told her, you are crazy. You are not going to get another house, you know, because she was kind of in the same situation. But this other one, he liked it. And we already chose, you know, we're going to choose light fixtures. He chose the color, you know, the appliances. So the wife is super happy. The flooring color, they ask only rugs, only carpets in the bedrooms, you know. So they are getting like, it's probably not the house of their dreams, but they are getting all the details that they want, plus 5 closing costs, you know. So that is, I mean, if you don't have even 3,000 for closing cost,
Mhm.
and you definitely don't have another 5 for over asking, and every house that you look at, there's lines, I don't know if you have seen, here is lines, like you go and it seems like it's Taco Tuesday, like it's 30 people lining up to get into the open house, like crazy. It's just crazy. So
Yeah.
that was my solution that, just by luck I found, and it's working. So I'm just going to be, so what do you have? I'm going to, what's
Mhm.
next? Give me the next house and I'm going to find the buyer for that, or, something like that.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, here's something interesting. Historically, we would always tell investors, don't buy land, just always get an approved property. But how do you guys feel right now about owning some land?
Yeah.
I think it's a good idea. I think it's a really good idea. In fact, Targan, if you're on, one of my old students is moving to the Tampa area from Albuquerque, and he's an investor too. He's one of us, and he's looking for some land. So if you could, Targan, are you on? Where is she? She was just on a second ago.
I think she just dropped off.
Ah, good Lord. Well, what I would suggest is you can search for land using the lead pipe system, and maybe get some land. It doesn't. I know that historically it's a pain because they don't really go for much. The commissions are small and all that kind of stuff. But
We can
I just
see
think-
Antoinette on it. She'll be on board in a week.
there you go.
Good
All right, good.
project for her. You and I can talk about that.
Yeah.
I have something to add about land.
Yeah.
So I currently have a deal in the works. It's an off-market deal for land,
Mhm.
and I negotiated with the sellers, and I brought the developer buyer, and so I was able to negotiate 8% commission.
Nice.
So, and that's in this market. So there are some gems out there.
Yeah.
So
Well,
did anyone see the chat box from Randy? Randy, what
Oh.
you got?
Hey, Gary, I'm sorry I pushed the wrong button and kicked myself out.
oh, hey, Target. Hey, use Really Flow, and you can search for land. See if you can find any vacant lots anywhere around where you are in Tampa area, because there's an agent coming in, Mike from New Mexico, and he's an agent. He invests. He works with investors, and they want to build. He likes to build. So I'll connect you guys. I'm going to be talking to him on Friday to see what his plans are.
Yeah, that'll be great. I mean, the biggest issue I see, of course, in my area is that the developers literally are buying every piece of real estate up. If it's, like 1-2 acres, of course they don't care about it. But then you have like eyesores that are just not going to be a good look. You can't put a house next to like a junkyard or something like that. So it's kind of odd in that way. But as far as the big pieces of land, it's just so expensive. And of course, if the developers haven't taken it already, it's just slim picking. So absolutely, I'll look for seeing what he's looking for. Something smaller, I hope. Because I have people who are looking for land, but they want the large stuff. And the DR Hortons, they got it all. Ours, they got it all.
Well, Randy's got 267 acres in Melbourne. So it's a little bit far.
Target and I have talked about that. She wanted to stay on the West Coast, and I'm on the East Coast with that. But it's 267 with a lot of frontage on US 192. It's a nice night. We're asking 647.5 for it. We dropped it from 1.2.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
All right. You know what, Randy? I wonder if it might be a little bit more complicated, but I wonder if the seller will be willing to sell it in chunks.
He really doesn't, because he just wants to get it off his books.
Yeah.
He would probably let it go for 500, but
Holy smokes.
yeah, he just wants to get rid of it. I mean, he's my age. We're both 65 years old, and he's had enough. And he could develop it himself. He's got the money, the backing, and everything else, but he doesn't want to. So he just wants to get rid of it.
You know what, guys? Do this. send an email out or post on each of you on your Facebook page, 267 acres. And it's also really close to I-95, right? Isn't it right off
It's,
I-95?
it's like, I think it's less than an eighth of a mile, maybe a quarter of a mile, something like that. It's real close.
See, guys, that's huge. I mean, right where that is, you know, it's a relatively untapped part of the market in Florida. And the land, I mean, people are coming in droves. People are literally coming into Florida, I think, by the truckload and busload every single day. So I would put it out there to your tribe, email, Facebook, get yourself a buy side commission on that. Let's get that thing sold. I mean, I might even,
Randy, I got an investor that might be interested in that. If you can email me the details on it.
All right, will do.
Realtor@davidedwards.com.
Randy, I'm going to right now give you my information. I may have someone that might be interested also.
Okay.
Yeah. Where it is, guys, if you look at Orlando and Cape Canaveral, where they launched the rockets, it's closer to Cape Canaveral, but it's almost like on a line between those areas. Right, I-95 is like California's I-5. It's the major artery north and south, and it's an eighth of a mile for that. Somebody's going to snatch it up because land is such a premium right now. It's crazy, so.
The only issue that it really has is that they do call it wetlands. I do have a survey on the property. There are exotic plants or animals or whatever, which means pretty much from what my understanding is you have to donate part of the property so that we don't disturb the plant or animal or whatever it is. But for 267 acres, plenty of property to donate.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, even if there's 30 acres of developable land, and you can get it zoned for half acre lots, 60 homes for land for $600,000, that's crazy.
Yes, it's a huge amount of money.
Yeah.
It could be.
Yeah.
And the frontage, if you wanted to go commercial, the frontage on US 192 is amazing.
Yeah.
So, but nobody's knocking on my door.
We just got to get the word out. So guys, put it out there. You never know. I tell you, that's why you swing the bat, because you just don't know which one you're going to hit. That's why you put it out there and let people decide if they want to take a look or not,
Right.
So.
And Randy, can I say it just hit me like like a bat just hit me. I was volunteering at a golf tournament this weekend and had my badge on. And a guy, was at one of the spots who were coming through the area I was working, and he had a D.R. Horton shirt on, or D.R. Horton, D.R. Horton shirt on, and he says that they're looking for land all over, and it didn't even click. So you know what? I'm gonna have to reach out to this guy because he's like, we're looking for land all over, and of course they're the big kahunas. So I'm gonna see if I can get in contact with him as well. That might be something right there.
Well, Targan, that's great. We've got 5% commission on both sides. It's 10% if I sell it by myself, but there's 5% for you, 5% for me.
Oh, that's incentive.
Yep.
I think we all ought to go in together, guys, and buy it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's do it, Gary.
Build some houses down there, man, see some rocket launches, ride waves, and and we'd have our own wildlife reserve.
Right.
We could build our own golf course.
You could build a little retreat in the training.
Yeah. Okay, guys. I still got to drive to Gainesville sometime tonight. So,
oh my God.
Any other? Apologize. Does anybody have any objections you wanted to cover while we're together that we haven't talked about, or one that's been stumping you, or like something new? And now's the time to speak up. Everybody okay? Getting all your offers accepted? Okay. Well, guys, go after the investor crowd for listings. Use that logic. If you're not on the team, you don't have Really Flow, you can go into your tax assessor's database. Sometimes you can call them and get a link to get a download. Sometimes they charge it, but if it's $50, it's worth it. Get the entire county's database, and you can search for absentee owner. Then focus on, you can look at the last recording, so you can sort by that. Remember, you know what I'm talking? So you get the database. First, you you segment it so you have the absentee owners. This absentee owners segment, separate database, you make it yourself. Then you sort it by deed recording and select the ones that are 10 years or more. Okay, and those are the ones you contact and use that logic. 1031 exchange, capital gains, markets probably at its peak or pretty near, and their investors are profit motivated. So you speak their language, and there's no magic pill, but it sure does increase your odds of success.
Hey, Gary, real quick, I just want to throw out there that that's really becoming popular here in the California area, going after these absentee owners. In fact, their CAR is having a big webinar on it Thursday on how to pursue investors, and also on the other end of it, how to pursue the renters in those homes. And hitting up the investor for the listing side, and then hitting up the renters on the buyer side. So it's going to get, competition's going to get even more stiffer out there for those types of deals.
Yeah.
So jump on it.
Well, the thing is, the investors, they don't have the objection of where am I going to go move to? Where am I going to live? Because they're not selling their primary residence. They're selling up an investment property.
Right.
In fact, David, didn't you say another teacher was teaching that also a couple of weeks back, that was the angle? Yeah. Yeah. So to me, though, as an investor, it's all about the profit, and I mean that's a pretty big motivator. You just got to hit that magic button. And I got one for you. Oksana, you guys know Oksana? She works with Mo in St. Louis.
Mm-hmm.
She called me, I don't know what day it was, I forget. One of her investors has been sitting quiet for a while, and she hasn't been responding to her. He finally called her and says, Oksana, I want to sell my 13 rental properties. She's 13 rental properties from one client, one investor. So that's the thing. You just never know. That's why you keep swinging the bat, keep asking, keep calling. So persistence and consistence. So we'll give you one more treat before we go. Come on. Baby, you let me pick you up? Come on. Over you go.
Oh, sorry.
There you go.
Bedtime, so I come to say bye.
Bye, honey. Okay, guys. Going once, going twice.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Wave. There you go. Bye.
Thank you.
I'll see you guys. For the team, I'll see you Wednesday night on the special call for agent attraction, and everybody will see you next Monday. Good night, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Let's see. Stop recording.